And we are back, and we're talking about the Samaritan woman. And with me is Dr. John Pauline, and we are talking about this satisfying water. And Jesus was saying that whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. And by the way, we have some water here.
Water's good. I mean, this is real water.
Now, this water is satisfying.
It is.
Especially when you're very thirsty.
It's very good. But you know what? 3 hours from now, we're going to need some more.
So tell us about this satisfying water then that we will never thirst again.
What's Jesus doing here? Yeah, I mean, water is really good. We need it, you see. But there's something even more satisfying that he's offering. And perhaps the way to illustrate is, you go to a young person, you say, how come you're not going to church? And they might say, well, I want to have fun. Church isn't fun. And to be honest, church often isn't fun. So you say to the young, well, where do you have fun? Oh, I go to the club. Oh, so when you're in the club, are you having fun? Yeah, I'm having fun. What happens when you leave the club? Well, the fun stops. You see, so fun is what happens when you're having it, and when you're not having it, it doesn't impact the rest of your life. It's just something you do that's a piece of your life. But joy is something that lasts through everything, even suffering. You can have joy even in suffering. In other words, there's a satisfaction that doesn't end when you leave the club, or when you leave wherever you're having fun, when you're no longer at the beach and so on. You can still have joy, you can have peace, you can have a deep satisfaction. And that comes in Jesus Christ. The value that we have with Him, the relationship that we have with Him undergirds everything we do. And even in hardship and suffering, you can still have joy. Fun? No. Suffering is not fun. But you can have joy in suffering. So Jesus is seeking to offer that woman. I mean, why has she had all these husbands? Must have been her life just isn't working out. It's just constantly challenging.
So without Jesus, then we can have satisfaction, but it's only temporary.
And fun would be a better word, because it just doesn't last.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Whereas the living water that Jesus gives us is everlasting. It's not temporary.
And it stays with you through the good times and the bad times. Yeah. Let's go on to verse 16.
Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come here." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, you had well said, "I have no husband." For you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband, in that you spoke truly.
Now, do you remember in the previous program we talked about the light that shines on somebody and reveals their inner secrets? That's happening right here. This woman didn't come to the well to make any great confessions, especially when she sees a Jew. She's not about to tell him any of her secret life. So she's busy dancing and hiding and so on, and then Jesus comes right in. He says, you're telling me the truth. You've had 5 husbands, and the one you're living with now isn't your husband. Interesting piece of that is that the Jewish narrative about the Samaritans is that they were settled from 5 cities over in Persia. People were brought from there and came here, and they learned the language, the religion of Yahweh and so on when they got here to these mountains of Samaria. So from the Jewish perspective, these were not real Hebrews. These were not real followers of God. They were just sort of painted on. They were actually from 5 other places. They were married to 5 pagan cities, you see. And right now, they're with Yahweh, but He's not really their husband. You see, they're worshiping the God of Israel, but He's not really their husband. Their hearts are with these other 5. So it's interesting how the story dovetails with the history of the Samaritans here. Jesus is shining the light of judgment on her. He's showing the truth about her. And does she accept it? No, she deflects. She tries to turn it into a theological argument. You notice that? You go on in here, he says, you're right. You don't have a husband. You aren't married. She says, oh, She says, I see you are a prophet. Well, maybe you can clear up a theological question for me. You know, where's the right place to worship, this mountain or that mountain? You see? So when Jesus touches her heart, she backs off. And that's an illustration of what he tells about in John 3, that when the light shines, people often shy away from it because they don't want their deeds to be exposed. And one way that we avoid serious spiritual encounters is we ask theological questions. Theology and questions and so on can be a diversion from facing the real truth about oneself.
Now, to me, it seems that Nicodemus and the Samaritan women have some kind of similarities. So both come to Jesus in darkness. Is that right?
She comes at noon.
Well, I mean, in darkness, in a spiritual
Well, in spiritual darkness, yeah.
Right? And while Nicodemus has been baptized with the water, as we said, he lacked the Spirit. And this woman has the water, yet she lacks the everlasting water. And that's where, you know, Jesus comes in and says, this is what you need in your life.
Are you trying to marry these off?
I don't know. But there seems to be that connection. And you said earlier you want to talk about marriage. I don't know if you're going to do that now or maybe.
Shall we do that? All right, well, let's do that. You have the situation that Nicodemus and the Samaritan woman seem paired off almost. In fact, they're opposites on nearly everything. I wrote it down because it was so interesting. He's a man. She's a woman. He's a Jew. She's a Samaritan. He's rich. How do we know that? He was a member of the Samaritan. She's poor. How do we know that? She was carrying her own water. If you were rich, you'd have other people carry the water for you and fill your cistern for your shower and everything. He comes in the middle of the night. She comes at noon. Why is she coming at noon? Probably to avoid all the social encounters that usually happened at sunrise and sunset at the well. The women looked down on her, and she just didn't want to be part of that. He was educated. How do we know? Because he was a teacher of Israel. She was illiterate. How do we know? She was a woman. Women didn't get educated in those days. He was respected. She was despised. He had a great name, Nicodemus, you know. She was anonymous. We don't even know what her name was. But here's the interesting thing. He was slow to understand, and she understood and saw Jesus as he really was. He lived in the holy city, and she lived in the town of drunkenness. So what's going on here? Why are these two opposites being put side by side in this story? Because both of them are acted parables of John 3:16. God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him might not perish but have everlasting life. These are the opposite ends of whosoever. You go to one extreme, you go to the other extreme, and Jesus says it's for everybody. I don't care where you've been, I don't care what you've done, the gospel is for you.
Now, where is the connection when it comes to marriage here?
Well, you tend to marry your opposites, see, so these two seem set up.
All right. Are you implying that they married, or is that a tradition?
No, don't
Okay, we're just trying to clear that up here.
It's in the text, though. Within the story of the text, it's interesting how these are a matching pair.
Opposites attract.
And I think that's intentional. It's a matching pair to show the opposite sides of God's grace, that he can reach out to the furthest edges of the opportunity here. Why don't we come back to verses 23 and 24?
But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. In the Gospel of John, the spirit is often the opposite of the material. It's the opposite of rituals, just going on the surface. The spirit goes deep. It goes beyond the surface to true, genuine transformation. To worship him in truth. In the Synoptic Gospels, the word truth rarely appears in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. This is one of John's
favorite words. It's all about the truth. If the truth will set you free, if you find me, you'll find the truth. And the truth is in the words of Jesus. The truth is found in the actions of Jesus. And it's found in the ministry, the ongoing ministry of the Holy Spirit. After Jesus goes, the Holy Spirit brings the truth. He is the Spirit of truth. So it's focusing in that Jesus is what truth is all about. And if you found Jesus as he really is, you will have the truth. You will know what God is like, and you will know the place that you can have with him. But there are many other paths to truth, but they don't lead to truth in the way that Jesus does. So that's the core of what's happening here.
And she met the truth. She met the Messiah. And as you said there, that comparison or that contrast is that she understood that this was the Messiah.
That's right. Do you see, though, how the Samaritan woman, Nicodemus, and so on, these are like representative characters. For John, they have meaning beyond the simple fact that they were people in the story. The Baptist in the story comes to represent his whole movement. Nicodemus represents the Pharisees and the Jewish leaders and the way they responded. This woman represents the Samaritans and everybody who's an outcast. Pilate represents Rome. So the characters in the story are specifically chosen because they have a focus and a place. With Nicodemus and the Samaritan woman, they are part of this whole story of John to build the bigger story. And they mark off the ends of Jesus' grace and mercy, God's beautiful character, because it tells us for today, it doesn't really matter who you are, where you've been, what you've done. Like Nicodemus and the Samaritan woman, what Jesus does is for you. God so loved the world that he gave his only son for you. If Nicodemus could be reached in all of his hiding and self-deception, if the Samaritan woman could be reached with her 5 husbands and the mess of her life, there's certainly hope for you. And there's no room for prejudice, no room for saying one person is way better than another. We're all equal at the foot of the cross, Davey.
Dr. Pauline Wiwan, thank you again for being with us in this Bible study. And friends, I also want to thank you for being with us. And as Dr. Pauline was saying, that God is reaching out to you and he's making that invitation just as he did to Nicodemus and to this woman to come and not thirst again, but to drink of that everlasting water that only Christ can give. Thank you. Till next time.